Hello and welcome. This is Melskinner, and as part of my first impression series, I'm going to be taking a look at a new game, BattleTech, which is a turn-based strategy game based upon a tabletop game of the same name. This is a very early beta build of the game, which is pretty limited in scope and is available mostly to people that participated in the Kickstarter funding of this game. If you are at certain reward levels, you were granted access to the beta that I am playing right now. With that being said, this beta is very limited and in somewhat of a rough state still because the game's still in development. All we have available at the moment is a single-player skirmish mode. They do not have multiplayer functionality yet, although they had intended to include that in this beta launch. They just hadn't gotten to it in time, so they decided to push out the beta anyway on the date that they had planned to, just removing that multiplayer functionality until they have it working in a more stable state. So as I said, single player functionality is all we have for right now. So we'll go ahead and click on that and load in here. And what we have available in the skirmish mode is, from what I saw, a list of 32 mechs. Now, I don't know if they're including variants of mechs as well as in that number, because there are a number of variants of the same mech. So I don't know if those different variants of that same mech are counted individually or together. I suspect that they are counted individually, so you may not actually see 32 actual mechs in the game. But I haven't actually gone through and counted. But we will look at the list of mechs. You have a number of pilots. I think this is pretty limited at the moment. And we have, let's see how many maps. 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 6. Rough count here. No, maybe 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. And you have different weather conditions. Now, I will point out that I have the graphic settings on low. And although I have a pretty good system, the rough build of this game I found on medium and higher. Actually, yeah, there's not, as you might have seen, the settings, if we go back, settings menu is not even available right now. So what settings there are come up in a launcher when you launch the game, and they're very limited. And when I did a little bit of stream in this game, and I did it at high graphic settings, and although the game looked okay, frame rate was not very stable. So I dropped that down to medium, same thing more or less. Dropped that down to low, and in a test run before I did this recording, it seemed to be more stable. So I'm going with low, just keep that in mind. But yes, optimization may not be at its best right now. So keep that in mind. But, you know, again, have some leeway for the fact that this game is, you know, very early days still as far as development. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the mechs. And if you're not familiar with BattleTech itself, a lot of what's going on here may be overwhelming, especially as there is no in-game tutorial. They do give you a little bit of a quick start manual with the game, and that was available if you looked at the starting menu. There was a button that said help. When I click that button, it does launch a link to that quick manual, that quick start manual. So it does go over a lot of the aspects of the game, and I'll try and break down things for you guys. Again, if you're not really familiar with the BattleTech universe and or the Mech Warrior series of games, because Mech Warrior is based in the same universe, the BattleTech universe. So if you're familiar with the Mech Warrior series of games, you're going to be familiar with some elements of this game as well. But right now, these are all the list of mechs that are in the game, and they are currently listed by cost. Now, I suspect this is maybe mech value is the cost, and if you can see here, grayed out, as a matter of fact, if I click away, we have a total cost that I can use for my lance. So I'm going to have a lance of 4 mechs, which is your standard lance size, and then I have my opponent with their lance. Now I can change the cash amount if I want, or I'm sorry, the mission value if I want. So we can do a clash, which is 15 million, a battle, which is 20 million, I'm assuming million with the M. We'll just say 15M, 20M, and 25M, respectively. So if we come back into the mech listings, We see the top mech is at 11.4, and all the way down at the bottom, we have 1.8. Now, there's other ways that you can sort this if you want. You can sort it by name alphabetically, if you so choose. You can sort it by tonnage. Tonnage is going to be the number in parentheses here. And I'm not sure how well you guys can see this, because even for me, these are very small numbers. And another nature of this beta build is I have to play this in windowed mode, a specific way to even get it to capture. I had a hard time getting it to capture in full screen mode and what have you. So because of the tricky nature of capturing this, again, I don't know how visible this is to you, but right next to where it says light, we see that it says 25 tons in parentheses. So that's a tonnage there. I'm going to go with cost because that's a little bit more useful, because if I'm setting up my mechs myself, then that's going to be the thing that I'm going to focus on the most. So as you can see, the cheapest mech here is at 1.8 million or 1.8 M. All right, some things about the mechs. If we look here, we have a number of stats: initiative, speed, durability, stability, heat, range, firepower, and melee. So going through this pretty quickly, initiative is going to determine your turn order. There's going to be phases of action when you get into the combat, and the higher your initiative, the further up in the phase order you will go. So usually light mechs are going to have an advantage here. So we can see initiative bar is full up with this urban mech. But if we go all the way up to the Atlas, which is a very big mech, at 100 tons, we see that initiative value is much lower. So usually speaking, the lighter the mech is, the better your initiative is going to be. And the earlier in the turn order you're going to go. All right, moving on, we have speed. This is pretty self-explanatory. The higher your speed, the further you can move in a turn. Durability, I think, is also pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be a factor of your armor. So usually lighter mechs are going to be a little bit less durable, but mechs in between the same weight class are going to have varying durability. So you can see this urban mech is a little bit more durable than a Locust here. And then if we go all the way up to that top mech here, we see durability is pretty high up, almost completely full. Finally, we have stability. This is kind of a unique stat for this game. This does not have a correlation necessarily in the tabletop game, but more or less the stability is your mech's ability to remain stable and on its feet. So a not very stable mech is going to more easily topple over. And we'll see how stability works as we get into the game. Heat is going to be your heat efficiency for the mech. So everything that you do in the game, whether it's moving around, firing weapons, what have you, is going to build up heat. The bigger your bar here is, the more heat efficient the mech is. So the Locust here is very heat efficient. Its bar is much fuller. If we go over to the urban mech, we see that that bar drops down. So the urban mech is not going to be as heat efficient as the Locust. So heat is going to be more of a concern. Moving on, we have range. Now this is just kind of a rough guide of I think it's the longest range you can expect from this mech. So the Locust here with this variation, as we can see, there's a few different variations of the Locust. But this variant of the Locust has mostly short-range weapons. So that range bar is fairly low. If we move over to the urban mech, its weaponry is a little bit further ranged. But this can be misleading, because if we go over to this Locust here, we see that range bar is much further. That doesn't necessarily mean that all of your weapons have much further range. It just means that you have weapons that are capable of hitting longer range. And I'll get more into that as we go. We'll actually go over the variants of the Locust so you can kind of see these differences. Finally, we have firepower. This is probably pretty self-explanatory, but it's specifically talking about ranged combat with firepower. So this is your ability to do damage at range. So again, a comparison of the urban mech, we have a little bit more firepower with that urban mech, although you are losing out in speed. And then lastly, you have melee. Now, melee is going to be just like firepower. It's going to be how damaging you can be, but this is going to be up close and personal. And this is going to be the first video game that I've ever seen that adds in the hand-to-hand combat of mechs that exists in the tabletop game. In the tabletop game, you can kick, you can punch, you can do all kinds of things to damage your opponent. That's not just shooting guns. But in pretty much every other interpretation of the BattleTech universe in a video game form, that has been missing. Well, this game finally incorporates it. So that is a factor. Usually speaking, heavier mechs are going to be at an advantage. So if we take a look at that Atlas mech again, you can see the melee is quite high. Now, firepower is usually going to be quite high for a larger mech as well, but that's because they can fit more weapons on that heavier tonnage. All right, so now let's go over the actual systems themselves. So you do have a description. That's just going to go over some more or less in-universe information about the mech itself. So that's not really going to be important for the scope of what we're looking at. Really what's going to be important here is the loadout. So you've got a little bit of a scroll bar, and we have the different locations of your body. We also have an idea of the armor that you can expect on this mech. So as you can see, as I hover over each location, we get told what that location is. We also get told what systems are in that location. So right arm, we see MG, that's machine gun. And then also, if we look over, there is a white bar and a yellow bar. And we can see the white bar, it says 20 of 20, and the yellow bar says 15 of 15. What those two things are, the white is going to be your armor. The yellow is going to be your internal structure. So armor is going to be the thing that takes damage first, usually. Once your armor has been whittled away, it will start taking internal structure damage. Internal structure damage is bad. You're going to start seeing your mech systems fail as you take internal structure, because you can take critical hits into your internal systems. If you lose all of your internal structure, that part is going to be blown off. Now, if we move over to the next location over, we see the right torso. And again, we're going to be given an indication of what systems are in there. With this particular mech, there's nothing in the right torso, no systems, so you won't lose any systems. But there is one thing to keep in mind with torso locations, your right and left torso. If you lose the right or left torso, as in you lose all of the internal structure and that part gets destroyed, you will also lose the corresponding arm. So more or less, you're going to lose the shoulder that the arm is attached to. So keep that in mind. You could have a pristine arm. If you lose that torso, the arm is going to get blown off. And that would take any systems that were with that arm away as well. So the machine gun would be gone if we lost our right torso. You also have head, center torso, and then you have left torso and left arm. Then you have right leg and left leg. To kill a mech, you're going to want to destroy either its center torso or head. Head would be where the cockpit is for the pilot, so you would be killing the pilot, and that is how you'd be defeating the mech. If you destroy the center torso, you'll be destroying most of the key systems of the mech, the engine and things like that, and the mech will cease to function. So those are going to be your kill spots. As you do damage, if this follows the same way that the tabletop game works, if you're going to be attacking, for instance, the right arm, but the right arm isn't there, it's going to transfer into the next location, your right torso. So eventually you're going to start doing center torso damage. You can also kill a mech by destroying both of its legs, as it will lose its ability to move. It will fall down and cease functioning. So there's a number of ways, 3, that you can kill a mech, as we just talked about. Legs, chopping both of them down, destroying the center torso, or taking out the head. With that being said, we get a summary of the loadout here. So same systems here, or same locations. We have head, center torso, right arm, right torso, and so on. So if we look through these locations, we can see what weapons we have. So in the center torso, we're going to have a medium laser and some ammo for our machine guns, which we have 2 of, 1 in each arm. Now to go over the weapons, there's 3 types of weapons in this game. Now, the timeline that we're going with, if you're familiar with the BattleTech universe, is we're in the Inner Sphere, and we are pre-clan invasion. I believe this is set in the 3rd Succession War, or around about that time. So, in that timeline, things are at a regress state. There has been centuries of warfare that have really devastated the infrastructure of the Inner Sphere. So although we're still having these mechs, the mechs systems have kind of degraded in their technology to some extent. So there was a point where technology was greater than it is now. And then at later stages of the games in universe, there will be more systems added in. So at this time point, systems are fairly simpler, and we can break them down easily. So as I was saying, there's 3 types of weapons. There's missiles, ballistic weapons, and energy weapons. So the Locust here has 2 of those types. It has ballistic weapons and energy weapons. The medium laser is a energy weapon. and the machine gun is a ballistic weapon. The only other type that we have is missiles, and that we can see on the other two variants of the Locust. Let's go over each type. Let's start with the ballistic weapons. So we have these machine guns. Ballistic weapons tend to be heavier, bulkier weapons, so they tend to take up a lot of tonnage. They also require ammo to use, so you do have a limited number of shots with a ballistic weapon before you run out of ammo. And also your ammo can take a critical hit, which will destroy that ammo, and if you don't have any ammo, you can't fire that gun. Now, one thing I think they have changed in this game is they do not have the ammo get cooked off when the critical hit strikes, at least as far as I've seen. In the tabletop game, an ammo critical hit would be devastating, more than likely killing the mech. I think they've removed that probably to add a little bit of survivability to the mechs in this game. But from what I've seen, if you do get an ammo critical hit, that is going to destroy that ammo. We only have one ammo slot here, so our machine guns would no longer function if we took that critical hit. The one thing that ballistic weapons have going for them, though, is that they're much more heat efficient. They are not going to generate nearly as much heat for you as energy weapons are, which is the next weapon type we're going to go over. Energy weapons tend to be very tonnage efficient. They're not going to weigh a lot for the damage output they can put out. And energy weapons can be pretty damaging, but they are not very heat efficient. They're going to generate the most heat out of any type of weapon. Finally, you have missile weapons. Missile weapons are kind of in between the two. They do have ammo, so we can see LRM ammo here. This is an LRM 5, and we'll go over what the different weapons are and what they mean in a second. They have ammo just like a ballistic weapon. The big difference between a missile weapon is that if this follows the way that the tabletop game is, so I'm making some assumptions. When you fire a missile weapon, you're firing multiple missiles. Each of those missiles is going to hit independently. So you can hit multiple locations, so you can spread the damage out. That could be good or bad, depending on what you want to achieve. It tends to spread the damage out more, and you also, with missile systems, LRMs in particular, that's going to be some of your longest range weapons. They have advantages and disadvantages, and we'll kind of go over it a little bit here. So with the energy weapons, there's going to be 4 ones, I think, in this game. There's going to be small, medium, and large lasers. And they do classify some weapons types as small weapons. And again, in this game, unique to this game, small weapons are usable in melee combat too. So it's kind of a little added benefit. So machine guns count in that as a smaller weapon, as do small lasers. So if we do a melee attack, we will be able to fire our machine guns if we're using this Locust. Usually speaking, the larger the energy weapon is, the greater range it will have and the more damage it will do, but also the greater heat you'll build up. The last energy weapon, I said there were 4, is the PPC, and I'm going to have to shift through here to find it. I believe the Panther will have one. Yeah, here's the PPC. This is a very long-range weapon, and it does quite a bit of damage, but it is also one of the highest heat-generating weapons in the game. It also has something called a minimum range. It's not effective if someone is too close to you. Once they get within a certain range, your accuracy is going to drop off rapidly. We'll see similar with the LRM systems once we get into those. Okay, now going over the ballistic systems, we already covered machine guns. This is a fairly short-ranged weapon, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. Your other ballistic weapons are going to be your autocannons, your ACs. This is going to come in a number range of 2, 5, 10, and 20. Usually speaking, the smaller the number, the lower the damage, but the greater the range. So 2 is going to be the lowest damage autocannon, but the longest range autocannon. And then it will drop off in range as you go up in number, but up in damage as you go up in number. So 5 is going to be slightly shorter range, but more damage, and so on. And finally, you get up to the AC-20, which is the most damaging weapon in the game, but it is the shortest range of the autocannons. So you have to get up close and personal to do it, to use it, and it's kind of an all-or-nothing weapon. If you hit with that, that's devastating. If you miss with it, it's kind of devastating for you, not your opponent. And then finally, we have the missile systems. There's going to be two types. There's going to be LRMs, which stands for Long Range Missile, and SRMs, which stands for Short Range Missile. And there's going to be a number that corresponds with how many missiles you're firing. So SRM-2 is going to fire 2 missiles. There's going to be 3 categories of SRMs, 2, 4, 6. So 2 missiles, 4 missiles, 6 missiles. Your LRMs are, again, categorized by how many missiles you're firing. And it's going to go 5, 10, 15, 20. Now, it might sound like the LRM-5 is better than an SRM-2, mostly, or the LRMs in general just sound better because you're firing more missiles. The one thing to keep in mind is SRMs do more damage per missile than an LRM will do. So it's not directly correlatable. With that being said, long-range missiles are long-range. They're going to have a very long range, but just like the PPCs, they're going to have a minimum range too. So as you get in closer, they're going to be less effective. Your accuracy is going to drop off dramatically. The SRMs, on the other hand, are short-range missiles, so they are short-range, but they don't have a minimum range. This is a pretty effective in-close weapon, and it's not going to generate nearly as much heat as your, for example, medium laser. Or SRM-2 and a medium laser are kind of correlatable as far as how much damage they do. All right, as I said, that's a lot to go over, but I felt like it's important as this is kind of an introduction of the game, of explaining a lot of the systems and how they work. So right now what we need to do is we need to build our lance, and we can either just use presets. So we've got a number of presets: assault, battle, cavalry, fire, recon, striker, and support. And if we bring up our what our cost levels are, we even have different, it's going to be the same categories: assault, battle, so on, but it's going to be light, medium, heavy. So mostly, if you're doing a light unit, it's going to consist of lighter units, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So let's just go over that real quick. I am going to drop this down to 15 just for this initial video, so we can kind of go over the systems. I expect this to be a longer video because I'm talking in quite a bit of detail over how everything works. But in any case, let's go over, for instance, I'm going to select light battle, or perhaps I'm trying to think of a good opponent for us. I think I'm going to go with the light battle. So with this setup, they're exactly at 15 million or 15M, and they have a Commando, a Panther, and 2 Centurions. So if we take a look at their mechs, and I wish that this would jump to the mech rather than you having to find it, but it does highlight which mech you have selected. So the Centurion is going to come with 2 medium lasers in the center torso, an autocannon or AC-10 in the right arm. We have some ammo in the right torso. And then in the left torso, we have an LRM-10 with its ammo. So this mech has a lot of different ranges covered. It's got your medium range or medium closer range with the medium lasers. The AC-10 is kind of a medium range weapon. And then you have your LRM-20, which is going to be your longer range. Centurions are fairly durable. They've got decent armor, and they're okay on speed. This is a pretty good mech, I would say. I'd actually recommend Centurions for a newer player in particular. And then they have the Panther, which is going to have some good long-range poke. Although, I think this is the standard. I don't think this is a variant. So they're going to have the PPC, which we already talked about, which is a fairly long-range weapon that is going to be doing a lot of damage. They also have an SRM-4 as a backup weapon, but that's just about it. So not a lot of weapons on this mech. It is a lighter mech, though. It also has jump jets. Jump jets is going to give you a special type of movement and attack. You can do a special attack with jump jets that you can't do with a mech that doesn't have jump jets. And we'll go over jump jets as we get into the game as well. Then finally, they have a Commando. I have to see what variant it is, the 1B variant. So the 1B variant is going to be having a, let's see, we've got an SRM-2 and a large laser and a medium laser. So this has quite a lot of firepower, in my opinion, for as light of a mech as it is. I think it trades a little bit in speed if we compare that to the Locust, for instance. You see how it has a lot more speed than that Commando has, but it looks like the Commando has... First off, it's more durable than some of these versions of the Locust, but it also has, you know, quite a bit more firepower, as you can see. I know it's just a small difference in this bar, but when you're considering light mechs versus light mechs, it is a significant difference. All right, so that's going to be their loadout. So now I'd like to combat their loadout. Now I could use a preset, but I think I'm going to go ahead and try and build this myself. Now, one thing I was curious about, the standard Locust uses 2 machine guns and a medium laser. This one I have been trying a lot. Yes. So what it does is it trades a lot of its armor. You can see there's only 5 armor in the arm location here versus the standard Locust, which has 20 in that location. So this mech is really intended not to get hit. You need to stay out of harm's way. So I am going to rock the Locust, but I definitely am concerned about its durability. So it's going to have 2 LRM-5s. There's going to be some long-range support. And the idea here is we're going to be using this to flank and poke away at the enemy. One thing you can do with LRMs is you can attack indirectly. Most other weapons can't do that. Well, every other weapon can't do that. That's one thing the LRMs can do. But what that means is if you don't have the line of sight of someone, you can still shoot at them. Every other weapon, you do need to have that line of sight. So that's one thing that's special about LRMs. All right, moving on. I do not recommend the Urban Mechs, by the way, for a new player. This is a very hard mech to use because it's a light mech that's really slow, which makes it have issues. Usually, lighter mechs, you're going to want to try and counter their lack of durability with speed. But the problem with the Locust we have is its armor is so paper thin, that is quite a liability. So we need to keep that out of harm's way. I would like to rock at least 1 Jenner as our light mech. This is a pretty decent mech. Its real problem is heat. As you can see, its bar there, very low. It's very heat inefficient. First off, it's got jump jets. Jump jets generate a lot of heat, but it also has a lot of firepower. It's got, I think, 4 medium lasers and an SRM-4. So a lot of firepower for a light mech, and it's also fairly fast. But unfortunately, it's very heat inefficient. So we're going to have to watch our heat efficiency on that. Okay, so we've selected at least 1 Jenner, and we are over cost right now. I'm going to shift some things around. The Kintaro is one thing that is really costing us a lot, so we'll probably drop that down a bit. And I have actually been playing around with this quite a bit. I really like the standard Griffin. It's a pretty good fire platform. It gives you a PPC, an LRM-10, and... or is it a different variant of the Griffin? I could swear it was a Griffin that I used. Oh, perhaps it was the Shadowhawk. I can't remember my last loadout, but it was a loadout that I really liked, and... I can't recall what it was. All right, well, I'm going to try the Griffin nonetheless. This is going to be our fire support mech. And we are 2 million over budget. So I think we may be able to get away with either a Hunchback or a Centurion. Okay, not quite. All right, I'm going to have to do a little bit of shifting around of our costs here. I don't think we're going to be able to get away with... Well, we're 4 over. So I just want to drop that down. I don't think the Vindicator is a particularly good mech, but it will drop us down on cost. So if we go over what our mechs can do, we have the Locust, which is going to give us some long-range punch. We've already kind of gone over the Locust in detail. The Jenner, we've gone over detail. The Vindicator is going to have a PPC, a small laser, and an LRM-5. So mostly long-range weapons. This is going to be our fire support mech. And then the Hunchback is going to be for in-close, devastating firepower. So we've got AC-20, as we already discussed, the most damaging weapon in the game. We also have a couple medium lasers and a small laser. And as we discussed, we can use this in hand-to-hand combat. And this mech is fairly durable. It is suffers a little bit in speed, but I think we'll be okay. So we're not quite as at the same level as value as this unit is. All right, I think with all that said, let's go ahead and choose our map. I'm going to go ahead with the river crossing, and we'll fight at sunset. All right, well, I think we're ready to go, so let's go ahead and jump into the match. Oh, there is one thing I need to do, which I forgot. We do need to select our pilots. So we have a number of stats here. I'll just go over them quickly. Gunnery is going to be your ability to shoot. Piloting is going to be your ability in melee combat. Guts is going to be your ability to deal with heat. And tactics is going to be a number of things. It's going to be line of sight. Just a lot of, just random things, line of sight and other things. We'll just say line of sight for now, but it also, I think, affects initiative and things like that. So I'm going to select Witness here. Pretty good gunner. I don't really care about piloting skill for that Locust. He has an ability. Every pilot has an ability, which is Sensor Lock, which he can remove evasive. We'll get into evasive as we get into the game on one target. And he's got okay guts. We don't really care about that, but he's got really good tactics, so we can use him kind of as a scout. All right, so that's going to be that character. For the Jenner, there's only one character that has this trait, and it is the trait for evasive. That is Paradise. So he's got a good piloting skill, good gunnery skill. Guts is okay. Tactics not so great. But really, the evasive trait I really like, because normally everyone gets evasive if they sprint, which is you running, more or less. If you want to fire in this game, you do a normal movement. Evasive gives you the evasive defensive stat even when you don't sprint, because everybody gets evasive when you sprint. He gets it even when he normally moves. So that's really good for our lighter mech. Keeps him having some survivability. Now for our Vindicator, actually Sumo is a pretty good pilot. He's got good gunnery, which is going to work fine for our fire support system. And he does have Precision Strike, which we can ignore cover or guarded on a target if we only fire one weapon. So if we only fire, let's say, our PPC, then we can take away cover and things like that. So that's a nice stat or trait to have for our fire support. Finally, we're going to have our... Ooh, I meant to click on the pilot. Our Hunchback. Now, I want a trait called Bulwark. And as a matter of fact, I think Ozone is the best guy for that, because he's got... his guts are good, so that's going to help him with heat efficiency. But really what we want is piloting, and we want gunnery. Both he's decent at. Bulwark gives us a guarded trait, though, if we stand still. So as long as we're not moving around too much, we get a defensive bonus, which is really good. So I'm going to go ahead with that. The other pilot that has it is Buckshot, but Buckshot is not good at piloting, and the Hunchback might be a mech that will get in close and be doing some punching. So let's go ahead and select Ozone. All right, so now we've got everything. Let's go ahead and jump in here.
Commencing deployment. Mech warriors, prepare for combat.
All right, so we've loaded in. All we have to do is click launch here.
Command interface initiated.
Okay, so right now we're in the simultaneous movement phase. So what we're going to do is we're just going to move all of our mechs, and then our turn will end. The opponent will move all of their mechs, and if we get a sensor contact, or if we have line of sight of one of their mechs, then combat will start. So let's start with our Locust. And as I said, the purpose of this mech is to stay out of fighting and poke away at people from range. So let's go over what we are seeing in the interface. So we've got a number of little buttons here. The one over here, and these correspond to the number keys as well. So you've got attack, which is 1. You've got move, sprint, which we currently have selected. So there's 2 movement, well, there's technically 3 movement types. Well, I guess I should rephrase. There's 4 movement types if you have jump jets. So we have normal movement, which is going to be half the distance of a sprint, at least if it works like the tabletop game. But you can attack in the same turn. Sprint, that's your entire turn. Now, this is quite a bit different than the tabletop game, because in the tabletop game, your movement is separate from your firing. So regardless of what how you move, you can still fire. If you move sprint, though, it's harder to hit. But this game, you can't sprint and fire, at least as the game is at the moment. So we might as well sprint because we're not in combat. We can also reverse. So this is just walking backwards. It's the same as move. You're just doing it backwards. Jump is your special jump move, but your mech actually has to have jump jets, which our Locust doesn't, so it's grayed out. Sensor lock is our ability. And then finally we have brace, which is also just an end turn button if you want. But this will remove some status effects and give you guarded or entrenched with it, which is a defensive bonus. So, all right. As we look around the map, the little white dots are where I can move. Think of these as tiles. And some of them have different colors. So we have white, that means I'm not in cover. Green means I am in cover. There is one other color, which we can't quite see yet because I'm not close enough to the river, but that's water, and that will be blue. If you're in water, you will be more heat efficient. So that is good if you have a mech that struggles with that. All right, let's go ahead and sprint over here into cover. And then after we move, we get to choose our facing. Now, the farther you move, the more limited your rotation is going to be. So if I just did a normal move, I might even be able to swivel all the way around and face the opposite direction that I moved. But with a long run like this, much more restricted arcs. So I'm going to go ahead and face the direction I think the opponent's going to be. And as we run off there, we can go ahead and move on to the next mech here. All right, so same thing here. We're going to go ahead and run. Now, I want to keep these 3 mechs together, more or less. So I think we run down into this bit of forest down here. And we face this way. So we've got a nice view of the river. Okay, and now our Vindicator. I want to have him at range. And I want to have him have a good view of what's going on. So let's go ahead and put him right in the middle of this forest, facing towards the river yet again. I hope he's got a good line of sight there, but he's also close enough that we could probably move him out of line of sight behind this this rock here. Finally, we have our Hunchback, and I could move him to cover the Vindicator, but I think we're going to move him along with the Jenner. Now, as I discussed, this is probably going to be the slowest mech out of those that we have. So one idea you can use the Hunchback, because you need to get up close and personal, is you can kind of hold a Hunchback in reserve out of the line of sight and then charge in once your enemy closes with you and, really smash some mechs. For now, though, I'm just going to move him into this wood and have him face that way. All right, so that's going to be the end of our turn. So then we're going to see the enemy turn happen. And if we don't have line of sight or a radar lock on them, which now we have radar lock. So unknown mech. This is just a radar contact. We don't have line of sight yet. And he probably just out of my line of sight because we can see the more lighted areas where we can see. So coming down this road. And then stopped. All right, because we have sensor contact, we have started the normal phase initiative system. So right now, we've got 5 possible phases, but we mostly are just going to be divided between 2 phases. Because our mechs are fairly equal to each other. Our light mechs are going to be going in phase 4, and our medium mechs are going to go in phase 3. So the start of your turn will always be phase 5, and then it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, and wraps around. Now, I get to choose which of my light mechs out of the 2 that can work in this phase is going to move. Now, I can choose a reserve, which will drop both of my mechs. As you can see, the 2 little pips here have moved to the next phase. So they will now be selectable in phase 3. Now, it's going to alternate back and forth. So I will select one of my light mechs, they'll select one of their light mechs. I'll select one of my light mechs, they'll select one of their light mechs. And it will go back and forth like that until phase 4 is done. Then we'll go to phase 3, and we'll go back and forth. Now, if I held mine in reserve, I would have 4 mechs that would all act in phase 3. Well, we'd still have that same structure of back and forth, but once we got through the enemy mechs, it would just be me consecutively. And also, if I started outnumbering them, the same thing would work. So let's go ahead and select our mech to go. I think we want to hold witness for now until we actually have line of sight, because we can't use our indirect fire until we have that sight contact. Now, we have no idea what these mechs are. These could be light or medium, so we have no idea what phase they're going to move in. So it's going to be tough actually deciding where to move here. If I move here, you see a red line. That red line is letting me know that I would have line of sight to that target, which we actually do want to establish, but I want to make sure I'm in cover so that I've got the most defensibility that I possibly can. So it looks like this spot or this spot is going to be the best move for me so that I can establish that line of sight. Now, the exact nature of the red line is going to tell you a lot about the actual line of sight. Right now, we have an unbroken line. If you saw as I moved in there, you see the little symbol. It looks like an eye. And then the line is not as bold after that. Well, this means I can see him, but my line of sight is broken by something. So a good portion of him is obscured. So I can see him, but my targeting is going to be a lot worse. So, and also we see the blue tiles of the river now. All right, so let's go ahead and move. I want to keep my distance at this point, but I do want to have that line of sight. So we're going to move where we can establish that and still be in cover. So I think right here is fairly good for me. The further you move, the more defensive bonus you're going to get as well. And of course, we're going to want to turn towards the person we want to see, because otherwise we won't have that line of sight. So right now we can see it's a Centurion, so that we know is a medium mech. So we know through that this person will not, they will not act until later. They will not act until phase 3. So whatever we do now, they're not going to be one of the mechs that is selectable in phase 4. I do have the choice to attack because I moved, I did not sprint. If I wanted to, I could have sprint. Let's see about a normal attack here. What is our chance? All right, so we can see over in the lower right, these are all the weapon systems. All those weapon systems are going to give me an indicator of what my chance to hit is. Now, all of my weapons have pretty much the same range limits, so they have the same chance to hit. I might fire some weapons here just to poke at this guy. So if I click on him, we're going to bring it up. We get an indicator of what his status is right now, what his weapons are, and I can choose which of my weapons I want to fire. You don't have to fire everything, and I advise against it. If we look over in the lower left, we can see some things about my mech. The main one that we see is a flashing bar. That is my heat bar. This is how much heat I would generate if I fired every weapon. Now, obviously, I can't keep that up too long before I get beyond this point. Once we get beyond this band here, we're going to have ill effects due to that heat. We're going to take internal system damage. If we get entirely full, we'll shut down. Shutting down is bad. You don't want to shut down because it leaves you at the mercy of your opponents. So I'm going to deselect the SRM, as that is an ammo consuming weapon, and I don't want to blow the ammo, although we probably have a lot of shots with it. And I may even turn off a couple of our medium lasers. Just fire off a couple. As a matter of fact, we're not going to generate any heat if we just fire 2 medium lasers. I think we're okay to generate a little heat, perhaps. But you know what? This is the first turn. This is not going to be a key turn for us. So let's just go ahead and fire off these 2 medium lasers.
Target acquired and locked in.
All right, so we managed to hit him with one, and we missed with the other. That's not too bad. We can also, at this point, now this is their turn to go, so they're going to move. And we set a very brief line of sight of that mech. We have an idea of a little bit more information because we had a brief glimpse of him. We know he's 35 tons, which is a light mech. I didn't discuss it before, but you have 20 to 35 is your light. We have 40 to 55 is medium. 60 to 75 is heavy, and then anything above that is going to be assault, so 80 up to 100. All right, so our last light mech can go. Now, if I did reserve him now, let's go ahead and escape, so that would deselect him. If I hit reserve now, we see it would shift over to phase 3, but we've already acted with our other pilot. So it would only really shift witness over to phase 3, even though we see both chevrons moving. All right, but in any case, let's go ahead and select witness. I don't see a reason why not. So right now we see a red line, but you might notice that the red line isn't straight. Well, this means that we can indirect fire at that Centurion because somebody else has line of sight. It's not going to be as accurate as if we had line of sight, but it's still going to be something that we can do. Now, we don't have line of sight of this mech, so even though this mech is closer, we can't, if we stayed still, fire at them. But if I moved in so that I could see them, which we start to see... I'm curious of why... It looks like we have indirect fire here, so I guess we can see them enough, but we have that maybe broken line of sight. But as we can come in, we can get that direct fire. But the Locust is not a mech that we want to have in close like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move up on this hill, moving to give myself, make myself a harder target. But I'm also going to move so that I've got a direct line of sight of this Centurion so we can poke at him. So I'm going to put it right on the edge of this forest. And we're going to turn to face.
Affirmative.
So now we've got a direct line of fire of the Centurion. And we can see that our 2 LRMs have a 45% chance to hit. We can see why if we hover over here. So evasive. He ran last turn, so he's got a 50% chance to dodge. He also moved a fair distance, so he's got some defensive bonuses. I go ahead and fire, though. All right, so a lot of those missed, but we did do a little bit of damage there. Now, if we right-click on a mech, we can see some information about it. So right now, we've hit him quite a bit in the left torso. Okay, they're firing at my Vindicator, but I don't think any of that actually landed, as we didn't see anything there. All right, so right now, we know where both of their light mechs are because those moved already. We don't know where one of their medium mechs are, but we can clearly see this one. Now, one thing that we could have done with our light mechs is wait until this guy moved. Because if he moved, just a normal move, and then fired, he wouldn't actually be as hard to hit as he is now, because this is carrying over from last turn when he was sprinting, when he had that evasive bonus. All right, so we could do some long-range pokes with our Vindicator.
Yeah.
And we do have direct line of sight of the Centurion. We could even move up a little bit and then give ourselves... some line of sight to this mech here, which might be a good idea. But personally, I don't see a problem in moving the Hunchback at this stage. Because he moves too slow, it will be hard to get him into proper positioning to do a whole lot else. As you can see, a normal move here. I don't think I even would have a shot at this point. We can put ourselves in a position to maybe act in the future, get up close and personal, and smack these guys. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll face like that.
Acknowledge, Commander.
And one thing I didn't point out is there's difference between front and rear armor. So you can see rear left torso, rear right torso. Usually speaking, enemies are going to have less armor in rear locations. All right, let's see if we can actually hit. It is actually going to allow us to fire. I'm going to hold back on the ACE-20 because we don't have that much ammunition with it, only 10 shots. But the medium lasers, I'll go ahead and take that shot because it's not even going to generate any heat for us. As we can see, the heat bar is not even being highlighted. So it's only a 45% chance to hit, but I think that's okay enough.
I'm on him.
Unfortunately, we missed with both, though.
Bang! That's a miss.
All right. So now we're hoping that the Centurion moves. But if not, maybe we'll get line of sight of somebody else. Okay, some fire at our Jenner. Took a little bit of long-range missiles there. Okay, so the only guy that we can see is the Centurion. I personally think the right move to do here is hold my Vindicator in reserve, and let's see what the Centurion does. Now, the downside is he could break my line of sight, but if he does that, we'll just get line of sight to somebody different. Okay, he's going to move down the valley. Now, he is in cover, which he didn't have before. And he's firing at our Hunchback. Took a decent amount of damage there. And we see the stability bar is filling up. So the other bar that was below the heat is now being filled up by that yellow. As you take damage, you'll lose stability. So that's kind of how that works. All right.
Something I can do.
So where we are, we can actually see that guy and fire at him. So I don't even have to move if I don't want to. Keep in mind, though, that if I don't move, next turn, if I get attacked, I will not be counting as moving, so I won't get any defensive bonuses as far as that's concerned. But I think that's all right. Let's go ahead and attack. So we've got a 60% chance to hit him with our PPC and a 95% chance to hit him with our LRM-5. I think that's pretty decent. And we see it's not going to really generate much heat for us, so we don't really have to hold back, I think. So let's go ahead and fire. Now, the medium laser was out of range, which is why we could not hit him. We hit him with the PPC, which is good. That's our more damaging weapon. And we also hit him pretty well with the LRM. So that was some good damage. So now we're on to the next turn. And their light mics are moving. And this guy just went in reverse and backed into the woods. Looks like he has line of sight. And he does manage to hit our Hunchback. So our Hunchback has taken some pretty good damage here. Okay, so I expect some more fire to happen at our Hunchback. We may want to consider backing off with him. I think we go ahead and we move the Jenner. Now, one thing I could do if I wanted to be a little cheeky here is I could get behind this guy. And we see the arcs here. So you've got frontal arc, then you've got the side arcs, and you've got the rear arc. Now, where you hit on a mech is going to be determined by what arc you're in. So if you're on one side of him, so this is the left side of this mech, I'm more likely to hit things on the left side. If I attack him from the rear, I can hit that rear armor. And if I hit that rear armor, we already know, as I discussed earlier, that it is a little bit, you know, it's not going to be as strong as his frontal armor. So we can do quite a bit of damage, perhaps. But I expose myself to being flanked if I move there, so I have to keep that in mind. I personally think that the Witness is a better pilot to use here because I don't think his positioning is going to matter quite as much. So I'm going to put him at this point of the woods, and we will have direct line of sight of the Centurion, and we'll just do that, and we'll go ahead and peck at him with our LRMs again. Now, he should be an easier target now, which we can see, only slightly.
Right, Commander.
And we did manage to hit him pretty good there. I guess we, for whatever reason, the graphic for the LRMs went away. All right, here comes their Commando. I expect some shots at our Jenner. Fortunately, we dodged most of that, although we did take a head hit, which injured our pilot. You take too many pilot injuries, you will lose your pilot, which is another way that you can lose your unit. Okay, so we only have our one light mech to move here. I am quite a bit concerned about the Centurion because where he is right now, he can do some pretty devastating damage to our Jenner, and we really don't want him to do that. As I said, I could move in here and get rear attacks. And, you know, frankly, I am very tempted to do that, especially on this Commando, because we could do some really devastating damage to the Commando, maybe knocking him out of commission. But the thing we have to keep in mind is I would for sure give that Centurion my rear arc, and the same thing would be true for me. I would take devastating damage. So I think instead we're going to keep our kind of terrain bonuses going in our favor. And I'm going to keep moving because we want to keep that evasion going. And I'll just attack the Centurion here. So I could move into the water, though, if I'm worried about heat. But right now, I'm not worried about heat. Let's move there. And aim ourselves in a way that they're not going to easily be able to flank me. Okay, so we've got evasive and we got cover. So really, we want to attack the person that's the better chance to hit, and that's for sure going to be the Centurion. Now, I have the same weapon selected as I did last turn, so I'm going to have to make sure I reselect. And I'm going to fire everything I've got. This is known as an Alpha Strike. And we see this is going to do a lot of heat to me, but if I dip into the water, I can try and get rid of some of that heat in the future. Let's go ahead and fire, as we've got a pretty good chance to hit with all of these.
Locking on target.
And we have already gone through his armor
Critical hit.
in this torso. So if we hit him here again, he will lose this arm.
Ability lost.
All right, unfortunately, we just lost our one leg, which is really bad. That's just terrible luck, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, that might have actually turned the tide of the fight, because
Orders.
first thing we have to do is stand up. But because we lost our leg, our movement is going to be severely hampered. So we stood up. Now we've got our normal movement. As we can see, probably not as far as we normally could move. Now, if we lose another leg, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So we could stay where we are, and we do have that bulwark trait. So if we're not moving, that's going to really help us. Let's go to attack and see what our chances are to hit. So we're 55% across the board here, and we're 40 and 45%. That's not really good. We really do need to get closer, so I think we're just going to go all out here. We can no longer sprint, as we have lost a leg. I'm going to go ahead and walk into the water here. And I think this Hunchback is not long for this world, but we're going to try and take the Centurion with us if we can. Let's make sure that they, well, they'll probably be able to flank me next turn, but just make sure they're not going to flank me this turn.
I'm there.
So he's going to slowly trundle on over. This game is pretty hard, by the way, if I haven't already said so. All right, so our chance to hit has improved, but unfortunately, still quite low. And I'm not actually sure why that is. It could be pilot injuries. I'm not exactly sure. If we do manage to get this one torso, though, we will be able to blow this arm off. Granted, I don't know if that matters because I don't think he has any systems in that arm. But he does have his LRM in that torso location. So let's just go ahead and hit him with everything we've got, because this Hunchback might not be long for this world. And if we do enough damage to him, we'll knock him down anyway. So we'll have other mechs called shots on him. And we'll see how that works if we get a chance to. So let's go ahead and fire everything. It's not great chances to hit, though. It looks like we did hit him with the AC-20, though. So he might go down? No, he didn't go down. He is going to move here. He shouldn't be able to flank the Hunchback this turn. Okay, took a little bit of damage there. I do want to take a look at this guy. So he took quite a hit in the center torso. All right, so we only have one mech left to go.
Commando.
We stay where we are. I think we're pretty golden. I mean, they're more or less ignoring the Vindicator at this point. So let's do our attack. And I think we go for the Centurion again, as we have 95% chance to hit him with both weapons. That's really good. And I'm hoping we'll knock him down, if at all possible. Okay, heavy PPC hit there. Okay, our turn. I think we want to wait until we know what this Commando is going to do before we move our Jenner, because I'm probably going to try and do something directly against that Commando. So let's move our Locust, or not move our Locust, depending on exactly what we want to do here. Again, they're focusing their fire. I think we could probably even get away with not moving here. So 55%, 50%. I might have to get in here a little bit. So let's do move. And I'm going to move in to this wooded area right here. Hopefully this will at least get us... We weren't in sensor range before, which might have been the reason why our chance to hit was so bad before. Okay. Yeah, notice how it's gone up dramatically, and we're now looking at 85%. I think we focus down the Centurion, try and knock him out of this. And we'll fire our 2 LRMs. Now we'll be attacking him on the one side, which honestly is not the side we want to be attacking him on.
No sweat.
But we did manage to knock him down. This is going to be really good for us, because we can now do called shots. Okay, I expect the Commando to do a flank move, but he may not actually do so, because he might worry about getting flanked himself. Okay.
Armor blow through. Internal damage.
Alright, that wasn't too bad. I mean, our Hunchback is doing what he needs to do, which is tanking damage.
Burning.
Now, there's 2 things I can do here. Option number 1 is I try and flank the Commando. It does look like I won't be able to get behind him, though, and look at him. So, maybe not the best course of action. The other thing I could do is I could just move over, remaining my cover, and we go after the Centurion, and we go for called shots. I may be able to kill him if I do that, so... I think this is do or die, all or nothing. Let's get over there and try and kill that Centurion. I don't even think he's in cover, so this should be a really good chance to hit. We're looking at 75% across the board. Although we have a lot better chance to hit the Commando, actually. Oh well, I want to kill the Centurion. Okay, so called shot. I think we go for the center torso and we try and kill him. We don't have a guarantee of killing him. What is his armor at? He has very little armor, only 12. So if we do a nice concentrated blow in his center torso, we may kill him. He also has a number of his systems, I believe, in that location. Yeah, his 2 medium lasers, which is going to be a lot of his firepower. So I'm going to try and go for the kill. We could knock out his LRMs if we attack here, but I want to get that center torso. We're going to fire with everything. This is an alpha strike.
As you wish.
Okay, we didn't quite get him entirely in that center torso, although we did manage to blow his leg off. Or no, I'm sorry, his... Yeah, we got his left torso, I think. Yeah, which took his arm with it. So he's pretty hurting now. He might come in for close combat attack. No, he didn't get quite close enough. He missed with his AC, which is going to be most of his damage. We did lose our right arm and right torso, though, which may have been most of my firepower. Yeah, we just lost our AC-20. So now it's time to get in close and personal and smash this guy. So we're going to come in. We're going to do a close combat attack. The yellow box is going to give you your indicator of doing that. We lost our big damage, our AC-20. So now we're going to come in and we're going to use our small laser to aid us in close combat. So let's go do that. and engage. So we see melee 75%, small laser 85%. Managed to knock out his right torso and then smack him with our... Oh, we killed him. Small laser finished him off. All right, so one down there, and we have a little bit of advantage. Granted, our Hunchback took a ton of damage there. There are other Centurions coming in, doing some more damage to our Hunchback, who has really heavy damage on that leg.
Internal damage.
Okay, well, now our Vindicator has maybe a shot here. Where he is, again, I mean... We might even be able to get a rear shot if I really go for it. But I think we'll just stay where we are. We've got a nice cover bonus. Let's try and get this Centurion knocked out. We might be able to take that AC-10 if we're lucky. Now, see, that was the weapon we needed to hit with. That was a lot of missing there. Okay. Airlight Mech's gonna go. Gonna be a Panther going after our Vindicator. Did some good damage there. Alright. At this stage,
What can I do for you?
I'm gonna move just a little bit. Or I could move up a lot. I mean, this would put him in, you know, severe danger, which is not something we really want to do. I'm trying to get a flank, though. I may be able to pull that off. If we move right there, but, you know what? I'm just going to move ever so slightly. I want to break that line of sight with the Panther so he can't smack me. But I still want to be able to hit the... the Centurion, perhaps. All right, let's see who our attack target's going to be. 85, 55. I think, obviously, the 85. Yeah. Hopefully we're a little bit more lucky with the fire here. Okay. Looks like the Commando's coming for our Jenner. Doesn't look like we took too much damage there, though. I will definitely be able to flank him at this point, which I'm going to want to do anyway because I want to get in that water.
Yes, Commander.
I do have a little bit of possible danger doing that. Now, I'm going to want to get in a spot where I've got a nice line of sight with him, but I don't have line of sight against the Centurion. I believe the Centurion might be able to get line of sight of me, though. But we'll move here. Try and use the water to my advantage, but we're going to get a nice rear shot on this Commando, who's really just out in the open right now. So, I see no reason... we don't quite want to do an Alpha Strike here. So, I'm going to remove one of the medium lasers, and we'll fire everything else.
I believe I have the advantage.
As we can see there, very devastating. We went right through his armor. Okay, their medium mech is going to come in, punch me. And both my legs are destroyed, so there goes my Hunchback. That was a nice move, because I think I was slightly above him. His chance of hitting me in the leg like that was really high. So now we're equal on mechs. It's hard to say outside of that where we stand. I would like to come in and try and smash this Panther if I can. I feel like I should focus on that Centurion, because if I don't, the Jenner's going to be in a lot of trouble, but it's going to be tough, I think, to get in here. So I think we keep our cover, and I'm going to make my decision based off of our positioning and our chance to hit. I suspect this guy's going to be fairly hard to hit. The LRMs are a bad chance to hit because of the minimum range I discussed earlier. You know, honestly, I think we go after the Panther because we can do 2-on-1 here. So we are going to focus everything. I don't see a reason to hold off on the LRMs. Let's just fire them. Okay. And we should be able to outmuscle him with our Vindicator. Okay, we're back around to the light mechs. He's coming in and punching me, which is kind of an odd decision. I'm going to outweigh him on that, so... The main reason I'd see that he would do that, though, is the fact that I'm definitely going to go with Paradise here again, because we may be able to alpha strike the Commando and take him out before he gets to go. We'll have to see where we are on the heat as I attack here, though. Now, this does mean I'm not moving, so I probably should move a little bit, just so I get that evasive. As a matter of fact, I might want to move into cover as well. Now, the Centurion might just come over and punch me, but we want that evasive. All right, now let's attack. Again, we've got that nice rear arc. This is going to be really good damage. Now, we're not in the water anymore, though, which is the one problem. Let's see. Do we go with the Alpha Strike and just go shutdown? I think that's a bad move. This is kind of the problem with this mech, just how much heat it will build up. We'll take a little bit of internal damage, I think, doing this, but we gotta do some damage to this guy, try and take him out. This is desperate. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna go... I don't want to go too high on heat. Let's just do this.
Locking on target.
And we killed him. So that actually paid off. That heat we generated, well worth it. Okay, now they don't have any light mechs that haven't moved. So we can now take advantage of this guy quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into the woods so that I can get a rear arc here. I thought I had it. It looks like that's going to be the only way we can get that rear arc. But we see the arc that's highlighted is the rear arc. So looks like that is going to be our turn. That might put our rear arc in danger of the Centurion, but I think the Centurion has other things on its mind right now. Okay, let's go ahead and fire everything. Now, unfortunately, our LRMs are going to be really hard to hit at this range. I would have liked to have gotten more range from him, but we're still going to fire them off.
All weapons are go.
All right, so that was terrible luck. I think we missed with our main damage, the medium laser. Okay, Centurion's going to run over to cover. Okay, he managed to take out one of my arms, which I'm not happy about.
I'm losing weapon system.
Okay. Now the medium mech.
Right here.
Now, see, what he just did actually works a little bit in his favor, but I've got a small laser, so I can use that in the close combat, and I've got a lot more tonnage on him, too. So if we continue to engage in close combat, I'm at a severe advantage. So I think we just use our weight against this guy and we smash him. Our LRM and our PPC will not be advantaged at this close range, which I think he kind of took advantage of. But the fact he has a PPC isn't going to be really good for him either. Now, I might try and get behind me next turn, which I won't be too happy about. And that's something I could have done to him. I could have moved over and gotten the rear arc just like I did with the Locust. But let's just go ahead and smash him.
On my way.
Okay, good damage. Now we're going to hit him with our small laser. And we just killed him by not taking out his cockpit. That was really lucky, and I think that has turned the tide of battle. We had that bad luck where we lost a leg with our Hunchback. That was our good luck. Okay, so we're back around to the light mechs. This is where we're going to be at a lot of advantage because we now really outnumber them. So let's just start moving so that we can get at this guy. If I can get a flank with the Locust, that will be really good. But for right now, we can't, so we'll just try and peck away at him from range. As long as we keep it within cover. I mean, the Locust has been untouched. Now, we don't want him to get touched because he has very little armor, but as we get in here, so as a matter of fact, let's do a sensor lock on this guy. Sensor lock him. Okay, that might have actually been a bad call, what I just did. I should have fired at him instead. I wasn't exactly sure how that worked. All right, I think I want to jump away here. Let's jump away and break our contact with this guy. I've taken damage. I have a lot of heat here. I'm going to probably generate more heat by jumping, but I don't want to get shot at anymore here. So we're going to use our jump to just jump right over the hill. And we can face any direction we want.
Firing jump jets.
If we overheat, that sucks, but... All right. Oh, we can't attack. I don't think I have any attacks to do, so we'll just brace.
Watch it, Commander. I'm going to overheat.
Okay, we did overheat a little bit. I don't think we shut down, though. Okay. Well, he didn't have any attacks that he could do. So we're just going to smack him here. We should be in cover. Oh, I can't see him, I guess, where I am. Even though it says I can. All right, well, we'll just move so that we can see him. I'll move to here.
Okay, I'm on it.
And let's attack. We've got 100% with our LRMs and 65% with our PPC. Fire away. All right, now he's got mostly full armor, so I do have to be careful. And he is coming after my Locust, perhaps, so let's make sure we get some distance here. I will reverse move instead, though, so that we can guarantee that I can at least see him. Looks like I'm having a hard time getting a line of sight on him. It's possible the line of sight is breaking as I'm doing this.
Good to go.
Do a reverse move. Yeah, I should be able to fire at him. I'm not really sure why it says I can't. Unless the distance we covered. This is the first time I've actually used reverse, but I think you can fire when reversing. Oh, we don't have a line of sight anymore. Okay. Nobody has a line of sight to him right now. Okay. Well, that's my bad, I guess. Okay, well, we're having problems with heat here.
Yes, Commander.
I don't think he'll be able to get to me this turn, so I don't think we really need to worry about it. Let's just get our heat taken care of. Oh, I guess he can come to me. He had to have sprinted to do that, though. There's no way that he did that without sprinting. All right, we should be able to see him, though. I mean, we do have line of sight after all. But our chance to hit him is low because he's outside of our sensor range, so I am going to move. We'll move into cover. And we can play this game with him. If he's going to sprint after me, I can just sprint away from him. It's not a big deal. And as a matter of fact, he's giving me rear shots, so I'll do this all day long. I don't think I hit him with much of that, if any of it. Which is kind of weird because we...
Commander?
Alright. That's probably the best move there. Get another rear shot at him.
Guys,
So we're at 65%.
Roger that.
All right, a few hits. Okay, so Paradise, we're just going to sprint away. Now, I could flank him, but we still have problems with our heat, and honestly, there's no way I think that he can move and really threaten me. I do maybe have to worry about my rear armor, though, so if I run like this, I think it's very unlikely that he'll be able to see me. So let's just run this way and look that way.
I understand.
Nice and easy, and we'll be able to take advantage of him quite a bit with these light mechs.
Looks like we have guests.
Okay, and he turned around, went the other way. And that was a sprint, so
Something I can do.
he is going to be evasive. Chance to hit him is still pretty good, and we can alpha strike him here.
Aye, aye. Waiting for
Okay, so Witness we're going to reverse so that we can get a little bit further back. I do want him in the woods.
coordinates received.
And then we'll attack once we get there. Should be a good chance to hit. Except now we don't have line of sight. Okay, now we do. Yeah, I mean, it said we had line of sight before I did the move, so 75%, pretty good.
Tell me what to shoot.
All right, finally our other light mech. I'm not going to be able to see him. Let's sprint here. Okay. According to this, I cannot see him in any of these spots. I do want to end up in water, but I also know that he could move in a way that he could possibly fire at me, which I really don't want him to do. This water must be deep enough that I can't actually enter it. Let's run the long way around. We'll end up in the water, and it will give us a chance to cool down quite a bit. As a matter of fact, maybe fully. Okay, coming right at us. Which is understandable. Matter of fact, he just took off one of my arms. What a punk. Can't believe he did that much damage to us. Alright.
Right here.
We did lose our small laser, which is going to hamper our ability to fight him in close up. So we want to get out of where we are. Ugh, we had cover and everything, and I can't reverse fast enough. The question is, can I do a normal move fast enough and get that line of sight? Not quite. Alright, well. I may just have to stay where I am then. We have a penalty to our LRMs, but everything else is going to be fairly easy to hit with. I really want to get that distance, though, so let's just reverse in a way that I can still see him. This should give us a better chance to hit him with our LRMs. We'll fire away. This is going to expose me, though, which I'm not happy about, but I am whiffing a lot of my shots, I feel like. Okay, so Witness. Let's have you reverse and back up to here, which is as far as you can back up.
Got it. I've got more hostiles on my screen.
All right, if we lose the Vindicator, this will be a tough fight. Okay, LRM's 85%.
Commander.
All right.
Awaiting orders.
Let's go ahead and sprint here. Try and get close. I will go into cover, though. Now, because we sprinted, we won't be able to fire. I kind of regret going the long way around because we could have used our generous firepower. Okay, he's going to continue to get close, which is the right call for him to do. He did get a little lucky there as far as that the missing.
Oh, you call that a hit?
Okay, so we're going to continue to reverse here.
Something I can do?
Oh, I have jump jets? I wasn't aware I had jump jets. Probably should have used them then. Alternatively, we just do a normal reverse. The problem with jump jets is going to make your chance to hit really low. So that's the one reason I'm not doing but I should have probably done it last turn because it would have gotten myself more distance, gotten me into cover, which would have been nice. Okay, I am going to fire with everything, though.
You got it.
All right, we continue to not hit him with a lot of our damage, which is unfortunate. All right.
Reporting.
Looks like I can't quite get a good target on him. And I also can't do that and get cover, it looks like. So, we're going to enter the water here. Hopefully we can get a decent enough shot on him. You know, that's good enough, in my opinion. We're going to fire everything we have. At this point, we don't even have that many weapon systems, so it's going to be harder to heat ourselves up. Okay, did fair damage there. Okay, so
Commander?
at this stage, I want to attack this guy from a couple different directions, if at all possible. Alternatively, I just kind of keep backing up and picking away at him. Let's see what our chance to hit him right now is. So he's within our minimum range, so that's not good. Let's try a reverse. We'll get into this cover.
Moving to position.
We'll just keep picking away at him as much as we can. I really suspect he's going to smash us here, the Vindicator. Coming close, do a punch attack. Yeah, 85. I mean, we continue to miss a lot of our hits here. So he's going to come in. Looks like I was right. Punch attack.
That was a hit.
Now, I honestly don't know if I have much of an alternative other than to just attack him right back.
Right here.
Now, normally I'd have the small laser to help us here, but I could jump away. But then more than likely, he'll just re-engage me. So I think we gotta create some distance here and keep this guy rooted. So let's just go with our own engagement here. Which that was bad that we missed. 80% chance too.
Yeah, I missed.
We just have not gotten luck on our side. All right, well, hopefully
Awaiting.
our light mech can come in here, get a nice flank for us. And do some good damage.
Firing at the enemy stick.
All right, we did manage to get into some internal structure.
Waiting for orders.
if we stay where we are, we should have a decent shot. Or even be able to fire the medium laser at this point, which I think is worth doing. Okay, good damage on his leg. He's going to come after our Jenner, which actually opens him up to a rear shot. Oh, no, he ran. Interesting. That gives me a really good opportunity here. What's our chances to hit? I think we just take this.
I'm gonna make some trash.
All right, so he just gave me a tremendous opportunity here to really
Yes, Commander.
punish him. So again, we're going to get in behind him. Doesn't mean I'm going to have to get really close, but I don't feel like I have much of a choice. And we're going to dump fire into this guy's back.
Target acquired and locked in.
Okay, we've eaten through all of his rear armor.
Good to go.
Okay, what is our chance to hit him now? We don't move. 85, that seems pretty good.
Got it.
I think we've got this one in the bag. I mean, I shouldn't speak too soon, but... Okay, now he's gonna run up and punch us again. I'm really not sure why he didn't just stay with us and punch us last time.
Okay, that was a hard hit.
Especially as he knocked us down. It's not going to make much difference, though, because he can't follow it up. That's one thing that I have a little bit of a problem with in this game, is being knocked down does not really impart that much of a penalty. Seemingly. Okay, so we're going to come right back at him. This time I hope we hit.
On the move.
Okay. So we're going to continue to be able to smack him from behind. Let's go for it.
He's going down.
Down he goes. This means everyone that goes after this will be able to do called shots, so we'll be able to go after systems. I think we'll go after his legs, honestly. So, Witness is going to fire. Very high chances to hit. We're going to go after his left leg. Well, let's go... Yeah, right leg. Fire.
Firing everything I've got.
We're going to try and take his legs out from under him. So he has one leg down.
A lot of LRMs, Commander.
All right. He's hobbling over to shoot at our Vindicator. All right. I thought he was trying to get a flank on us.
Losing armor over here.
All right. Well, what he just did is he actually gave me the distance to use my better weapons against him. So that works for me. Let's go ahead and fire. Unfortunately, our good weapons... How did we miss like that? Jeez. All right. Well, we're going to flank him again.
Yes, Commander.
Won't be hard to do. And this should be close to it. He's really been holding out a long time. Honestly, we've gotten terribly... I was just about to say, terribly unlucky with our shot chances as we miss like half our shots there. And... It said he had evasive. Interesting. Okay. Well,
Waiting for orders.
I don't think we need to move here. I think we just... Oh, we do need to move. All right, we'll move up. That's probably good. We might have a little bit of a penalty on our LRMs. As a matter of fact, we're out of ammo, so it's good that we moved up anyway. All right, this guy does not have many mech systems left. We want to hit him in the legs if we can, but he's going to back up. I suspect he's definitely going to go after the Jenner now. Or not. So he's trying to be defensive here.
Yeah?
Well, I'm just going to go after him.
Oh, you want some of this?
And he's still standing. All right, well, we're going to get another rear attack on him. This should be it.
Awaiting orders.
I said last turn as well. Okay, so just move in here, get ourselves a nice rear attack. Now I'm exposing our Jenner quite a bit here.
We have guests. Looks like we have
But at this point, we're doing a ton of damage to this guy.
firing.
And finally, he's down. All right, well, that was, you know, a little bit of a lengthy mission, but I also had a lot of things that I wanted to explain. Go ahead and do our action report. In any case, I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at BattleTech. You know, I really like the game that I see. I think that there is still room for improvement. Obviously, optimization being one of the ones that I've noticed at this level. But the actual gameplay elements are really engaging. They're really fun. The only real complaint that I have is just that knockdown. It just doesn't seem like there's enough detriment to it. I feel like a lot more of your turn should be taken up standing up. It seems like, yeah, you can get called shots on you and devastating hits on you while you're knocked down, but let's say it's one-on-one, and one mech versus another. I knock you down, then your turn, you spend up getting up. I might as well not have even knocked you down. Outside of the fact that you can injure a pilot by doing that, but to me, I just wish that there was more of a reward for knocking somebody down in any case. But as I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, this is Mouse Gunner signing out.